and welcome to this new section in which we're going to practice making guesstimates on the examples that we have illustrated to you earlier, and we will apply the process that we have been discussing. So, purpose of this section is to help you start practicing making guesstimates onward to reaching excellence to help you crack your consulting interviews. And what we will do in this lecture is we will take one case of guesstimating, which is to guesstimate annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai. Gold Flake is a brand name of a company. So Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai, how much, what is the demand, annual demand of them in Mumbai is what we will try and answer in this lecture. So how would you go about estimating the annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai? Any thoughts? We can use the process that we have outlined, and I will quickly read through the process on the left hand side, which we will apply as we go forward. We will start with what is to be guesstimated, treating that as a Y output. Then we will identify the input variable step by step until we reach the bottom, important word, and I will illustrate as we go forward. Then we will check the logical consistency of our model. And then we start assuming the values of the input variables right from the bottom and work up till we reach the top. And then we check the reasonableness of our outputs and assumption and modify as needed. So that's how the process is going to be. So ready to implement this process, to apply this process? Wonderful. Great. So the first step would be obviously in this case of annual demand for Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai to define what is to be guesstimated. Here it is reasonably clearly stated that you need to guesstimate annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai. In case it is not clearly stated, like it said, estimate the annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai, or not no Mumbai, annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes. Then you would say, okay, where? All India, in a particular city. If they say demand of the Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai, so are you looking at monthly demand? Are you looking at annual demand, quarterly demand, 5-year demand? So you have to ask those clarifying questions. So in this way, it's simple. We define annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes in Mumbai, and then we move to the next step. And the next step is to identify input variables step by step. The first step. In first step, we say the annual demand of Gold Flake cigarettes is dependent on annual demand of cigarettes total in Mumbai and the market share of Gold Flake in Mumbai. Simple, right? Once we have that, now we can't say this is the bottom because we still don't know the annual demand of cigarettes in Mumbai. While we can make some fair guesses on market share of Gold Flake in Mumbai as we see forward. So that stream. So we see we need to work on the annual demand of cigarettes in Mumbai further. So we go to the second step. And here we put our understanding and knowledge and say the annual demand of cigarette is again determined by number of smoking days in a year. How many times do people smoke in a year? And daily cigarette consumption in Mumbai. So, so daily cigarette consumption in Mumbai. So that's how combinedly should give us annual demand of cigarettes. Again, number of smoking days in a year, we could make a fairly good guess, and hence we could probably don't need to work forward on that. But daily cigarette consumption in Mumbai is something that we need to still figure out. So we continue to go forward in driving that down further and see that daily cigarette consumption in Mumbai is dependent on two things: number of smokers in Mumbai and average daily consumption per smoker in Mumbai. And here again we'll see that average daily consumption of cigarettes could be easily determined or assume one pack, half a pack, two packs, whereas number of smokers still we need to work through, further drill down. So we for continue to going down further on that track of number of smokers, and we see that we come to some kind of a bottom here in which we say that number of smokers in Mumbai is determined in the population of Mumbai and percentage of smoker in Mumbai, and we have good information or we make some reasonable assumptions on each of these, then we can start having to work upwards. So we seem to be hitting the bottom. So what we do now is, as you see on your screen now, is to check the logical consistency of model. We work back and say, okay, if we have a number of smokers, the percentage of smokers in Mumbai, population, yeah, that makes good sense, average daily consumption. So like this, we kind of review the model that we have, and if there are any issues that we fix here. And Fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't have any such issues. So the model, we say, looks fine to go forward. Then start assuming the value of the input variable starting from the bottom. So we start assuming the input variable values, and the value, we say, okay, we know about roughly the population of Mumbai is about 100 million, give and take, and you keep the numbers easily multipliable. Don't get lost into complicated calculations. So it may be 110 million or 123 million, but then say ballpark, give and take, let me take it 100 million for ease of calculation. Similarly, percent of smoker is an assumption. You could smoke any, you could take any number, 10%, 15%, but again take in multiples of tens, easy to calculate. And here we assume that 40% of those, there are people in smokers in Mumbai among the population of 100 million, and that gives us number of smokers at 40 million. Now this 40% assumption, you could also assume 20%, right? It's up to you. I have taken 40% for purpose of this illustration, but you could assume this also as 20%. So we get number of smokers as 40 million. So we have one stream of numbers working forward. Then we continue to populate the other number, go up further. We start assuming the average daily consumption per smoker, a pack of 20s, and that gives us the daily consumption in Mumbai to be 800 million cigarettes, right? From 40 million into smokers into 20 per smoker, so that gives us 800 million. And we continue working upwards in the next stage again, and there we have assumed that there are 300 smoking days in a year. Then the 800 million say daily consumption into number of days, that gives us 240,000 million annual demand of cigarettes in Mumbai. So we're reaching somewhere, right? Do you see that? And then we assume a market share of gold flake in Mumbai of 20%. You assume 10%, some reasonable assumption, and that gives us the calculation of annual demand of gold flake cigarettes is 48,000 million in Mumbai. And obviously, the next step now is to check the reasonable of our output and assumptions. And there our assumptions are all that we have highlighted, and the output is at the top at 48,000. And we say, when we look at, we say, isn't 20 cigarettes per person per smoker a bit too much? Should we reduce it to 10? And you could check this out as you go forward with your interview or on reasonableness of your assumption. Similarly, percentage of smokers also, you could say 40% is too high, let's work on 20%, but that's up to you. So in this, supposing we revise the average daily cigarette consumption to one pack of 10s instead of 20s, that the numbers change, and the numbers, revised numbers, we need to work out, and that you see on your screen now. We modify that and we get a total number of cigarettes of gold flake sold in Mumbai as 24,000 million. So that's how you make a guesstimate, right? You get an idea of the application of this process, reasonably straightforward? Absolutely. So question is, once you have done this calculation, how do you communicate this answer? You just say that, okay, there's a science and art of communicating this guesstimate numbers, right? And let's look at that. How would you go? What do you think? How would you go about communicating? Right. So what I have for you, the way I would like to communicate this, and I would start by building quick rapport and praising the person as a as a way to build some good interpersonal relationship with the person, and say thank you so much for asking this interesting question. Make the other person feel good, and your patience while I worked it out, because it takes a bit of time and patience for the other person to keep seeing you work while doing nothing. And then you say, as I've estimated, and you go to the output straight away. You say, as I've estimated, the annual demand of gold flake cigarettes in Mumbai is about 24,000 million. Everyone is eager to know the output first. You can do the analysis, but first tell them the output. So second step would be to tell them the output. Then you give the details, logic of that. And then you start giving one by one, saying this is based on the assumption of population of 100 million of Mumbai, with 40% being smokers. That gives to 40 million smokers in Mumbai. Assuming a daily consumption of a pack of 10 cigarettes per smoker and 40 million smokers, we get daily cigarette consumption of 400 million. And assuming again 300 smoking days in a year, we get a annual demand of 120,000 million cigarettes, which translates into 24,000 gold flake cigarettes demand at a 20% market share. And then you kind of start closing the answer by saying, have I answered your question, sir, ma'am? Is there anything else that I can answer, you'd like you to know? And this may turn and ask the other person to say, don't you think you have assumed 40% being smokers a bit too much? You say, yeah, maybe right, sir. Then if you can reduce that to 20%, then a number will come down to 12,000 million cigarettes. I'm okay to do that. And that shows your flexibility in guesstimating, and that's okay. That's actually good. Right. So, having done this first level of first guesstimate, what do we do next? We take another example, and this we take kind of a weird example. How would you estimate the number of crows in Ahmedabad? So that's an interesting guesstimate, right? So we will take that through in our next lecture. I hope you are continuing to learn something new, continuing to enjoy, and I look forward to see you again. And thank you for watching this lecture.